Hi everyone, this is the dispatch for Wednesday, May 27th. Our psalm is Psalm 99 for one more day, and then we go to the book of 1 Kings. So 1 Kings tells the story of, you guessed it, Israel's kings, beginning with David and carrying through Solomon. And then after Solomon, we get into 2 Kings, and that's when things for Israel really start to fall to pieces as the United Kingdom divides and so forth. That narrative is for another day, but today it's actually the story. It's a very, very long chapter, and we're getting almost the very end of it here. It's the story of the dedication of the temple in Jerusalem. David wanted to build the temple, but God told David that his son would build it. But God also told David that God would build a house for David in the sense of a name, of a throne, right? This is the promise of God that a descendant of David would sit on the throne forever. That's the promise. That leads to a lot of messianic expectation. But here we're talking about the physical temple built in Jerusalem by Solomon and now being dedicated with the sacrifice of a lot of animals. So that's what's happening here. There's a bigger context. This is just a narrow picture of that actual dedication. The temple, remember, is the dwelling place of God. It is where the Ark of the Covenant is kept, and it is where God's presence dwells in the world. So then we go to the book of John, the Gospel of John. This is part of Jesus and his conversation with Nicodemus. Nicodemus is a Pharisee and comes to Jesus in the secret, the darkness of night, right? And this is when Jesus says to Nicodemus, you must be born again. This is later in that conversation, and Jesus is talking about himself and where he comes from and what he is able to reveal to those who listen to him. Jesus says that the one who comes from above is above all. And one of the points that John is trying to make throughout the Gospel of John, in the words of Jesus, is that Jesus is from above, that Jesus and the Father are one. We are in our book discussion of this book, Simply Jesus by N.T. Wright. One of the things we've been coming back to again and again is that in Jesus, heaven and earth come together. And that is one of the things that has been a new realization for me, is to recognize the way that is intended to replicate or replace the function of the temple. So we go back to that temple scene in 1 Kings, and it's connected here to Jesus in John's Gospel, that the temple was where heaven and earth come together, and now heaven and earth come together in Jesus. In his ministry, in his work, in his teaching, we see heaven and earth touching, coming together. And that's part of what Jesus is communicating here in his conversation with Nicodemus. So, as I mentioned, this book, Simply Jesus, today is our last discussion of that book. We will wrap that up today. Everyone is invited, whether you've been a part of the discussion so far or not. I hope you'll consider joining us. That's at 10 o'clock today. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.